First off, I've asked this question probably twice in the last month. I'm going to ask it again today. Are you beginning to see, or are you seeing, or not at all, multiple offers on homes, on contracts? What are you seeing? Help me out.
Well,
what are you hearing?
I wrote an offer on, it went on the market Friday, and it already had multiple offers.
Okay, went on Friday and they've already got multiple offers. Anybody else seeing anything like that or hearing about it from others?
World just had one.
What's that?
World just had one where he had 8 offers. He had about 35, 40 people to open house
And then just multiple. So,
you did?
So it's interesting. I just before Huddle, I had a phone call from a client that I'm doing a loan for in Texas. And he kind of put everything on hold because he was so terribly frustrated because everything he'd go look at had multiple contracts and he wasn't winning any of them. And so he kind of put it on hold, and then he found a home that was a for sale by owner. So he called he went and talked to the owner, struck a deal. I love when people do stuff like this. The only way he would do the deal with the owner is if the owner agreed to pay his real estate agent the full 3%. And I'm like, David, I love you for that. But the point was, even the for sale by owner had 2 contracts. He ended up getting it, but, and the purpose of today is to just go back and ask you to think about now if you're the buyer's agent, what can the lender do to help you with getting your contract to look the best? Now, we had to deal with this in 2020, 2021, beginning part of 2022. First, I should ask the question, does anybody think the lender can make a difference? You're all nodding your head. Okay, then give me some. I have 3 things written down because I've had 3 contracts in the past 7 days that have multiple offers, and I was asked to do some things, which they don't even have to ask me, I do them anyway, but they asked, 2 of the 3 we ended up getting in multiple offer situations. So my question to you is, what are the things that you feel a lender can do to make your buyer's offer the strongest one that seller's going to look at? Give me some ideas. Bill?
Helping maybe accelerate the appraisal and finance contingency period.
Okay, accelerate the appraisal and financing contingency periods. Okay. What would you want them to be? Give me an idea.
For financing, 0.
Oh, thank you, Philip. Philip and I were working on one this morning. Philip said, Greg, do we have to have a financing contingency? We don't. If you're the listing agent and you see a contract with 0 financing contingency, what does that say to you as listing agent that you'd advise your seller? What does that say?
Confident.
What's that?
It's confident.
Confident, yeah. They're probably pretty darn strong, or why would they be willing to go to 0? And appraisal contingency, how much would you truncate that? How much would you shrink that?
15 days? Like 15 days?
How long?
15 days.
15 days? Somebody else?
7 to 10.
I am going to give you a strategy that was used last year and the year before. If you can get a 7-day due diligence, put in 0 for appraisal contingency. If you can pull off a 7-day due diligence. Now, think about this. Contract comes in. It has 0 financing contingency and 0 appraisal contingency. What does that say to the listing agent that they're probably going to be communicating to the seller?
Strong buyer.
What's that?
Strong buyer.
Very strong buyer, probably. Now, if you're going to write that kind of a contract, you've got to be, well, let's go back to this. Is there anything else other than those two things that you think the lender can do to help make your buyer look the strongest?
I asked them to call the listing agent just to confirm.
You want to call the listing agent. Okay, I agree with that. I think that is a powerful step. Now, obviously, as a lender, we cannot give out confidential information, but we don't have to. We can simply present them as so strong so that the listing agent says, oh, that's pretty powerful. Now, I want to talk about that for just a minute, because those three things, the lender making the phone call, no financing contingency, and potentially no appraisal contingency. Now, let's talk about the third one for just a moment. If you're going to do the third one, I ask you to put a stipulation that I believe is in the stipulation little thing that you folks have here that simply says, if a date falls on a weekend or holiday, it rolls, that date, that contingency period rolls to the next business day. I ask you to do that. Why? Because if you write an offer on Saturday, as a lender, I may not be able to get my disclosures out on Saturday or Sunday. I might have to get them out on Monday, which means I now have 4 days to get an appraisal in. I may have to, and we can do that. We can do that. But I'd prefer if I don't have to charge a rush fee back to the buyer. I mean, it's, they're jumping in right off the start. But you can do that. So I just ask you for that stipulation. And then you've got to be working closely with your lender to make sure the lender, in fact, understands what they're doing. So now, here's an interesting statistic. Years ago, even if I just go back probably 5, maybe 6 years, 7 years, less than 30% of all buyers had their own lender. They would, almost 70% would use the lender that the real estate agent advised them. Those numbers are drastically changed today. Today, over 50, in fact, almost 60% of all buyers, and I want you to either confirm or deny this, are coming in with somebody that they have been referred to. A family friend, online lenders, whoever it happens to be. But almost 60% are coming with a lender. Does anybody experience some number different than that? When you have a buyer, is it 6 out of 10 that have their own, 3 out of 10 that have their own? What are you seeing?
I think it depends where they come from. So like Lee that we're working with, she was a company lead. So she was like at step 1.
Okay.
I have 2 other buyers that are deferrals, and they're using the lender that the person who referred me referred them to a lender.
Okay, so that's 66%. Okay, 2 out of 3 have their own lender. Somebody else? Anybody? What do you have as an experience?
I'm not seeing that many.
Not, okay, you're seeing fewer.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Okay.
fewer, and then the ones that do say they have a lender, it's not a strong loyalty, and usually flip them pretty easy.
Okay, good. I like to hear stuff like that. I like to hear stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's not what I hear as much as I'd like to. And maybe it has to do, please don't take this the wrong way, maybe it has to do with the strength of the real estate agent. Because, a lot of agents are still learning, and they don't want to press the buyer more than they need to. But let's go into what we said. You're going to have 3 things the lender can do to help you secure that deal. Number 1, the lender is going to make a phone call on behalf of the listing agent, or on behalf of the buyer to the listing agent. Number 2, 0 financing, and number 3, 0 appraisal contingency, because you're going to get it done inside due diligence. How comfortable are you doing that with a lender you don't know? Well, somebody, say something. Are you comfortable with it?
Not at all.
Not at
As a
all.
matter of fact, I'm not comfortable until we actually close with a lender that I've never closed with.
Okay. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Back in 20 and 21 and the beginning part of 22, we learned a great deal about the absolute importance to help win a contract. Forget about closing the loan. To get the contract so that you have a chance of closing a loan. On the importance of the partnership between buyer, real estate agent, lender, and attorney. That became so critical. I ended up getting a fair amount of transactions during that time because people like Rip and Bob and others were insistent that hey, look, we're trying to make you the best in front of that agent. I don't know your lender. They may be the best person in the world, but I don't know them. We're putting on zero financing, zero appraisal, and I need them to pick up the phone and call and present you without disclosing confidential information as the strongest they're going to see. If I'm representing you, I need you to trust me. Now, I had somebody call me last week and say, Greg, my client is using their family friend as their lender. And they said, but the lender said, when they heard it was you, that would just call Greg and tell him who it is, and he'll let it go. And that's exactly what I did. I happened to know this particular lender. Him and I competed for loans for, all the way back from the time I first got in the business. He is fantastic. And so I just simply told my real estate agent, I said, look, you're fine. If he says it's going to go, it's absolutely going to go. You don't have a thing to worry about. So, but that was because I had that relationship. I would strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you. If you know you're going to get into multiple situations, first of all, use these techniques. Get the lender to make the phone call. Bill, go ahead.
Will you go over a little bit the zero financing?
Sure.
0 days.
Philip, can I use our example? Sure. Okay, so Philip sends me a note this morning and says, Greg, is there any chance we could do zero financing for this particular buyer? And I called Philip back, this morning, and I said, Philip, as long as that buyer has not made any changes to his profile, meaning credit, employment, assets, and income, if he hasn't made any negative changes to that, he doesn't need a financing contingency. And I said, Philip, let me get on the phone with the buyer and we'll know. And I did. I got on the phone with the buyer on my way here, went over everything with him. He's super strong, a mid-700 credit score, nothing's changed. I don't even have to run a new credit report for him unless it's going to be a June closing. So, we're all in good shape. So I was comfortable telling Philip 0 days financing contingency. Now, when I get on the phone with the buyer, let's face it, the buyer doesn't always understand this stuff, so Philip and I are going to work together. You're still protected. Even though we're putting in 0, you're still protected. Because Philip I don't know what he's going to say, but what he could say and what you could say is, I know Greg enough to know that if you've got a 5-day due diligence, if there is a problem that you didn't realize, he's going to know it inside 5 days, and Bill, use due diligence to walk away from the deal.
Yeah.
But that's where you've got to have absolute confidence in the lender that's doing the job. If anybody puts in, and I've got 3 right now, Phillips will be number 4 if that one goes, 3 right now that were all 0 financing contingency. And it's not a problem. Why? Because I know this. If we were going to have a problem, I would know that inside the first 5 days. Because we've already done the pre-approval. I already looked at every single document they have. And now I'm going to get all updated documents. So, but you have to trust the lender. that they're going to make sure that that happens. Otherwise, it could get ugly. So that relationship becomes that much more powerful. But use the tools. 3 tools. Lender makes the phone call, zero financing, zero appraisal. Again, if you're doing that zero appraisal, be sure you put that stipulation in there that says it's going to, you know, if any contingency or due diligence date falls on a weekend or holiday, it rolls to the next business day. Be sure you use that. I think it's in your system. You can just copy and paste it and go. Anybody have a different feeling on any of this? This is not so that you turn every single loan over to me, although I wish you would, but that's not what this is about. This is about getting more contracts. I promise you, we are going to get busy, busier. And multiple contracts are not going to be a thing of the past. They're happening right now. They're going to happen that much more. And the only way to calm everybody down is to let them know we can deal with this. Here's how we do it. Here's how we do it. Now, I'm going to get out of here in just 2 minutes for you, but when you say it that way, you know we're probably going to run into multiple competitive offers. We're going to make you the strongest that there is. The way you do that is we're going to go zero financing, zero appraisal. If we know it's going to be competitive, we're going to do that. Now, I'm asking you, because Jay, you told me, you're my buyer, I'm your real estate agent, you told me that you are going to be using Bill as your loan officer. I don't know Bill. Are you comfortable that Bill is going to be able to meet zero financing, zero appraisal? Because if he doesn't, you could lose your earnest money. Now, your option is, if you go to my lender, I don't get anything for you going to my lender. But what you will get, I absolutely know. You will not lose your earnest money. There's no possible way. He will not let that happen. And you can also tell people, I've been doing it 33 years and I've never lost an earnest money. So that's the way that you can hopefully move people to go to directions you want them to go as early in the process as possible, because this is coming. Anything else? All right.
What are interest rates today?
I don't know yet. I haven't. They shut off the market because of all the stuff between China and U.S. that went on, and I don't know yet. I mean, I'm guessing we're probably still going to be in the, probably 6 5/8 to 7 1/4, depending on your credit score. We locked a couple of people last week at 6 5/8, one at 6 1/2. But I also locked somebody at 7 1/4. So depends on interest rates. Depends on credit score, down payment amounts, all that kind of weird stuff. All right, anything else? All right, guys, thanks, appreciate it.